and good morning, good afternoon, and a very good evening to you. We're going to whip over tube. Hope today, hope you're feeling grand, and always when you want. Hello there, everybody. Welcome to another Q&A Wednesday. Let's dive into question one, shall we? Yes, that's how. Like a pool of questions with answers. Weird. I don't know what I'm about. Alright, question one. Question one today is, when I plug my pedal board into my Boss Katana 50, I can't get any volume jump out of the boost pedals. Am I doing something wrong, or is it the amp? This is a difficult question to answer simply because I don't know what your pedals are or how you're running the Katana. If you're stacking multiple gain stages, then you won't get any boost. If you've got like a distortion pedal that's maxed out, and then you add another distortion pedal on top of that, then you're not going to get any volume jump. It's the nature of gain. Because what distortion does basically is compress the signal. So if your waveform's like that, distortion will come in, it'll squish it. So it won't go anywhere outside of this parameter. It'll go da-da-da-da-da, and it won't go any further. It can't get any louder. It can't get any quieter, basically. So stacking loads of gain on just makes that compression stronger. It doesn't squish it anymore, it just makes it stronger. And so it doesn't matter how many boost pedals or volume boost pedals you add to your chain at that point, you're not going to get any volume jump. So, excuse me. But again, I don't know what your pedals are, I don't know your pedal order, I don't know how you've got the Katana set, so I can't really comment too well on what kind of course to take here, because I gotta say you didn't go into massive detail about what you've got and what you're using. But like I say, if you're stacking gain pedal into gain pedal, then invariably you're not going to get a volume jump. It's just going to be more compressed, and you're just putting gain on top of gain, which is not a bad thing because you get luscious, gorgeous, singy sustain, but you don't get volume jump. What I do, because I like that. I like stacking gain into gain into gain. I like as much gain as I can get. I'm a gain addict. I love lots of distortion. I love to be able to kind of like have the note sing for a long period of time. I don't like having low gain. It's a bit tedious for me, especially when I'm soloing. Obviously, when I'm kind of clean soloing, I like that kind of like that low gain then. But if I'm kind of doing really, I find I can express myself better with lots of gain and lots of kind of sustain. So anyway, what I do normally, if I'm using, I've got two different pedal boards. Well, I've got three different pedal boards, but I'll get to that later on. And basically what I do is I use the Zoom pedal, my Zoom G2, as a volume jump. So what I do is I have, say, patch A7 set at, say, 80 on the volume. Then I have a patch A8, which is a volume jump set at 92. So that's how I get my volume jump, and that's the way I can kind of like get a jump if I need to. Same thing goes with the Line 6 HX, which I'm pointing, even though you can't see it, but it's behind me on the floor. I have a parametric EQ that's boosting volume. It's not boosting any frequencies, it's just boosting volume, and it's set on the... As you're looking at pedals, it's on the left side. I always get really confused the way pedal boards are supposed to be. But basically, if you're coming from your amp, it goes from amp to EQ or volume thing, and then to distortion. So, without knowing fully what you've got, distortion pedal-wise or boost pedal-wise, and the way you're setting up the Katana, I can't help you overly too much. But like, there are things to kind of bear in mind. If you're stacking gain into gain, it's just going to compress the signal. You're not going to get any volume jump. You need something to regulate volume at the start of the chain. That might be at the end of the chain. I don't know. From the amp, you want to go into something that's going to regulate the volume, and then into your pedals, and then out to your guitar, if that makes any sense. So amp, volume regulator, other pedals, and then to your guitar. Or, other way around, guitar, into drive pedals, into a volume regulator to your amp. Or, failing that, saying that the Boss Katana 50 doesn't have an effects loop, though, does it? I was going to say you could run a pedal into the effects loop to give you a volume jump, which is quite a lot of people do. I've never understood, to be honest with you, I've never understood why amps don't come with 2 masters. I've never understood that. Because my second ever amp was a Carlsbro, and it had two master volumes and the ability to switch between them, so you can have a volume jump in the amp and you can have normal volume. And I don't know why that isn't as standard with all amplifiers, because it's such a great feature to have 2 volumes, so you can set one slightly louder than the other one. You know, I don't know why. That's one of my pet peeves with quite a lot of amplifiers, is I'd love to have 2 master volumes. It'd just be so much easier. And you wouldn't have to worry about pedals boosting your volume. It could actually do it from your amp, which would be 10 times better and easier. Which means you could stack gain into gain into gain and still get a volume jump because it'd be coming from your amp. So I don't really know why that is. If I ever get a signature amp, which will never happen, it'll have 2 master volumes. But anyway, yeah, so without knowing exactly what you've got pedal-wise, the way you're running those pedals, how you've got the Katana set, I can't help you too much. But just bear that in mind. If you're stacking gain into gain, boost into boost, you're not going to get a volume jump. So just bear that in mind. So my kind of thinking would be like, you know, just get something like a graphic EQ pedal, or like put one of your boost pedals, like, you know, in front of everything, and kind of see if that can like kick up the volume a bit. It's going to be a bit difficult. It's quite hard to do it. Or failing that, get a volume pedal. You know, manipulate the volume with a volume pedal. You know, have it, because you can get certain volume pedals where you can manipulate the volume of it, so you can have the pedal back all the way, but it's not off. I've seen this on a Boss volume pedal. It's really good. You could have the volume back all the way, but you could actually manipulate it. So with the pedal back all the way, the volume's still there, but if you push that forward, you get a volume jump, and then you put it back and you go back to your rhythm thing. So it's really, really cool. So volume pedal is a good way to go. Anything else I can think of? Oh no, other than that, that's kind of all I can think of really. But like I said, I don't really know what you've got, and I don't know how you've got the Katana set. And also, if you're running the Katana on, like, say, the brown mode or the lead mode or the crunch mode with gain up fairly high, but the amp's already going to be compressing anyway, so no matter what you add to it, it's going to squish it. I personally like that, as I like everything level. I don't really like things to jump out too much. I like things level. So when you're playing live, you set the volume to where you're towering above everybody on your kind of quietest setting. Well, you're not towering above everybody. Yeah, that's stupidity. But you know what I mean? Like where you're above. You know, if you're a lead guitarist, you're sat kind of like where you should be in a mix, and then whatever you add to that, it's just going to be there. You know, no matter what happens, your volume is kind of like, you know, stable, so to say. So I really like that myself. There have been times in the past where I've used volume jumps, and I've gone to stand on the volume boost for solos, and it's just gone absolutely crackers. You know what I mean? It's gone absolutely through, the volume's gone through the roof, and I've immediately had to turn it off, and it just looks really silly. So be aware of volume jumps. Make sure they're not too drastic, and if they are drastic, you know, be wary where you use them and how you use them. But yeah, so I would look into something like a volume pedal or something like that. You can normally get you can get some kind of like cheapo ones like Bespecco and stuff like that, which are really good and do the job. They're a bit flimsy because they're plastic, but as long as you look after them, they'll look after you. But yeah, so I hope that's giving you some ideas anyway. People of the tube, let's help this fellow out. Any other ideas of how to boost volume if you're stacking gain into gain, apart from having 2 masters and all the stuff that I might have spoken about? So let us know in the comment section below. Okay, so moving on to question 2 now. Question 2 is, have you ever had your guitars refretted, and if so, how often? Yes, I've had my white Strat, which is there, refretted 3 times now. I've had the 62 refretted once. Other than that, I haven't had any other guitar refretted. So it's just when needed. I don't refret them as, you know, it's just when the guitar starts to struggle, when it's choking out and there's a lot of dead frets, where it just kind of tick, 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 you know, it just ticks, it just kind of like pings out. That's normally the time you either want to go for a fret level, and if there isn't enough for fret, you know, you can to do a level, you can get it refretted. But normally a fret level will sort things out quite easy, but it depends how low the fret is at that point, because you don't want to go down the fretless wonder route unless you like that, but it's really hard to bend. When your frets get super low, it's really, really hard to bend, I think. I never really liked that. I remember playing an original Les Paul Custom fretless Wonder in Old Hat, and it was gorgeous guitar, and it sounded amazing. It was so easy to play, but you couldn't bend on it because the frets were like so low. It was really difficult. That was a gorgeous guitar though, that was. Oh, heavenly Les Paul that was. But yeah, so I just get them refretted when and needed. My white Strat I got refretted because quite a lot of the frets were knackered by that point. You know, the original frets were knackered, so I needed it refretting. And then it went to a guy who did a really bad fret job, and then that didn't last very long, and I had to go and get refretted again by somebody who knew. And then that didn't last very long either because he didn't do a great job either. And then I took it to a local guitar luthier who I'll take everything to from now on, called John Lavoie, and he just did like the most amazing fret job on that guitar. It's just absolutely stunning. So I got my white Strat back, and it was just amazing. And he did the refret on the 62 as well, and that's just amazing, absolutely amazing. He put a new nut in for me, and you know, and sorted out all the old fret. No tear out either. There's no chips in the fretboard or anything. It was just absolutely bob on. So yeah, but it's just when and needed. You get your guitars refretted when and needed, but most of the time you can get away with a fret level. But if it feels weird after a fret level, it's invariably time for a refret. You also asked, do you ever consider fret quality, material, longevity when you buy a guitar? No, I don't. Because the fact of the matter is, it can always get refretted down the line. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think about what the frets are when I play a guitar. If a guitar feels good, then I don't care what the frets are or what it is. It's, you know, it's all about feel. If it feels good, that's all that matters. And I don't really worry about kind of like fret quality. When they wear out, I will get it refretted with 6105s, which are my favourite fret. But until then, I don't. You know, I'm happy with what it is. Kind of so to say. It's just it's all about a feel thing. So yeah, I don't think about the quality of frets unless if they're really really scratchy. I'll invariably do it. I'll polish them. If it's like a cheap guitar that I buy and the frets are a bit burnished or a bit kind of rough, I'll do them myself. I'll polish them myself, which is a dead easy job. You know, you're not taking anything off a fret. I've recently learned how to fret level. I'm not the best at it, but I can fret level now. And start to kind of like, you know, crown frets and stuff. So I've learned how to do that for myself now, which I'm really happy about. Took a long time, and I'm still not great at it, but it works. So that's all that matters. But yeah, I don't really think about that kind of thing. Longevity, you know, they go when they go. Frets wear out, and that's just, you know, that's just the nature of a guitar. Really, at the end of the day, you know, you're putting metal onto metal. It's very going to wear out unless you've got like stainless steel frets that last forever. I don't know. But either way, you know, frets wear out. It's just the way it goes. But so yeah. So and you also asked, have you ever thought, you know, you ever changed necks instead of refretting? I haven't. I've always gone down the refret route because I like the original neck on the guitar. I don't like the idea of getting a new neck and having to get used to it and breaking in a new neck. So no, I've never gone down the neck changing route, and I can understand why people do, because sometimes it can be cheaper than refretting, but personally I think I would go for a refret because you're kind of altering the DNA of the guitar that you love. Classic example of this was Rory Gallagher's 61 Strat. For a time, Rory had to take the original neck off because it wasn't holding tune, because there was that much sweat and moisture in the neck from him playing it for so many years. The neck was just all over the place. It just couldn't hold tune, so he had to take the neck off. And he got a replacement neck from Fender to put on the guitar while that neck was drying out. And it's around that time he said the guitar didn't feel right anymore, and he stopped using it as much, and he started using his Music Master instead, his kind of Mustang-looking guitar, because it just didn't feel right to him. And as soon as the original neck dried out and was stable again, he put that straight back on. And that's the kind of key to it, because if I changed the neck on my white Strat, I would feel the difference. You know, if I changed the neck on the 62, I'd feel the difference. Or I changed the neck on any of my guitars, I would feel the difference. And it might not be for the best. If you buy a neck and you put it on, the neck might not be as good as the original neck. So I would always go down the refret route myself. I wouldn't really change necks, although that was Leo Fender's original idea with a Strat or a Telecaster, is once the frets are worn out, you bin that neck and you order a new replacement. But necks take on a life of their own once you've been playing them for such a long period of time. and you get used to it, and you learn the neck, you learn what it does, what it doesn't do, where it can do certain things. And I think changing the neck out just kind of gets rid of that. It's not. I wouldn't recommend that myself. I don't really like the idea of it. It kind of changes, like I say, it changes the DNA of the guitar, and I don't really like the idea of it. So yeah, so that's it. And you also asked, how do I manage fretwear? I don't. It just happens. You know what I mean? There's nothing you can do to manage fretwear. It just happens. That's all there is to it. Unless you don't play your guitar, there's nothing you can do. You know, frets are going to wear down. They're going to, certain frets are going to wear more than others. Certain frets are going to eventually choke out. Certain frets are eventually going to go dead. That's just the way it goes. It's just one of those things you kind of have to accept and just kind of like get on with, because there's nothing you can really do about it unless getting kind of changed out for was it stainless steel frets or really, really big frets that take years to wear down. But yeah, you can't really manage fretwear. It just happens. It's one of those natural things that happens to an instrument, especially a guitar or a bass. It just happens. Unless you go fretless. But that's hard work. Anyway, so yeah, hope I answered your question. Moving on to question 3 now, everybody. So, question 3. How do you achieve a Red Hot Chili Peppers song Fortune Faded guitar tone? I would say, more often than not, John on that track used his SG, because there's an SG in the video. Whether he did use SG or not, I don't know, because every time you see him play it live, he's using his Les Paul. He never really used that SG live, but in the music video to Fortune Faded, he's got he's got an SG. Whether he used that in the recording process, I don't actually know. I've never really looked into it, to be honest with you. But that was my phone, everybody. It's definitely a humbucker guitar, Fortune Faded. Invariably probably going into like a Silver Jubilee Marshall. And the way to achieve that tone is neck humbucker. It's the same as Ready Made off Stadium Arcadium. Fortune Faded is all neck humbucker. It's not bridge, it's not middle, it's neck. It's the neck humbucker. That's what gives it that tone. And it's a really fuzzy tone as well. It just sounds like an amp tone. It doesn't sound like a pedal to me, Fortune Faded. It sounds like just a cranked up amp. Which could be a Silver Jubilee, it could be a JSM 800, who knows. It could have been a pedal. It could have been like, for all we know, it could have been a Vox AC30 with a pedal in front of it. But, knowing John and the way he used humbucker guitars, I would doubt it. Because John invariably just, like, with humbucker guitars like his Les Paul, would just go straight into a Silver Jubilee and just crank it. So to get the Fortune Faded tone, you want to be on the neck humbucker of a guitar. You can get away with a neck single coil; it doesn't really matter. But to get kind of closest, you want like a neck humbucker, and you kind of want to be going for a fairly driven tone. Not a lot of treble, fair bit of mids, pretty much a lot of low end. Because again, John was the only guitar in the band. His guitar tone had to be big. Invariably, John ran bass on all his amps on 10. I'd find it hard to believe that John ever ran the bass on his amps low. In the pictures that Dave Ratt took of John's amps, the bass is always on 10. So, and also Marshalls have a funny bass dial. On the old Marshalls, like the old Plexes, the bass dial is a bit of a funny creature. It responds a lot with the volume, where the volume is, the bass dial does. If a volume is really low on, like, say, a non-master volume Marshall, the bass invariably doesn't respond that much unless it's whacked up all the way. If you've got the amp absolutely 10 on 10, invariably the bass will be over too much and it'll flub out the amp, and you need to turn the bass off. If you've got a Marshall Plexi on full whack, invariably it's best idea to turn the bass off, I think. Well, in my experience, anyway. But yeah, so it's a neck humbucker, quite a fair bit of gain, not to a point where it runs away with you. It's still fairly, there's still a lot of clarity in the tone, but that mainly comes from the mids. Mids, lots of low end, fair bit of gain. Watch your treble. If you need treble, dial it in, but be very careful with your treble. You don't want it to fizz the tone out, because it can if you're not careful. So that's what I would recommend myself. But it's invariably a neck humbucker with a fairly overdriven amp. Yeah, but it's a distorted amp. It's not overdriven. It's distorted. And invariably it doesn't sound like a pedal. It sounds like an amp tone. But you can get it with a pedal if you're using something like a Marshall Governor 2 plus pedal or something like that, you can invariably get that kind of sound. So yeah, that's that's what you want to be going for. Fair bit of mid range, and not enough mid range where it gets fizzy and fizzes out, and again a lot of low end, but not enough where it flubs out. If that makes any sense, But you want a fair bit of gain, to get to sustain on the riff. You want a fair bit of gain on it, just kind of so it kind of rings out, and also you want to be fairly big because again, you're the only guitar technically. John was the only guitar, so it wants to be a big sound. Okay, so I hope I answered your question. Is there anything else I could think of? No, I can't think there is. I think that's everything I can think of. But again, I don't know if it's an SG or a Les Paul. Fortune Faded. Sounds a bit like an SG. Doesn't quite sound like a Les Paul. SGs have a certain different tone to them. Not a million miles off a Les Paul, but a Les Paul doesn't sound like an SG, and an SG doesn't sound like a Les Paul. So it could be an SG. I don't know. I never really looked into what he used on it, Fortune Faded. People of the Tube, if anybody knows what John Frusciante used for Fortune Faded, let us know in the comment section below, because I'd be curious to know if anybody's looked into it, because I've never looked into that myself. But that's the kind of tone you want to be going for. Really, really distorted, but not overly distorted, with mids, lots of low end, but still retain the clarity of individual strings. If you strum like a G chord, can you hear all those notes in the distortion? That's kind of what we're going for. If you strum a G chord and you can't hear any of the notes and it's just this big wall of noise, you want to knock the gain back a bit to give it back some of the clarity. Okay, so yeah, I hope that answers your question. Moving on to question 4 now. Okay, so question 4 is, will we be seeing more How to Play Like John Frusciante's... I can't even talk. Will we be seeing more of How to Play Like John Frusciante's series soon? Yeah. But like I say, I can't teach songs anymore and I can't play any examples because of copyright law. So I can no longer play John's songs or the Chili Peppers songs, and I can't really teach them. But I'm looking for ways around that, and I might have a way around that. But more on that if I have found a way. I don't want to say too much about that at this point in time. But anyway, but I am going to continue the John Frusciante series. I'm going to continue the Rory Gallagher series, the Peter Green series, and the Jimi Hendrix series as well. But it's going to be more about kind of like techniques and more kind of like how to try and like play in the style of, not necessarily playing their music, but kind of in the style of. So like we'll talk about kind of certain John Frusciante chord progressions that he liked, certain kind of feedback techniques that Jimi Hendrix employed, certain techniques that Rory Gallagher would do, like pinch harmonics and tapping, and certain techniques that Peter Green would employ, like vibrato and stuff like that. So that's kind of where I'll be going with those series when I get around to doing them. But so they take a lot of time and they take a bit of planning now. Now I've got to be careful of what I play, and I've got to make sure I know kind of what I'm on about before I do the video. I want to make sure I'm not selling you short, so to say. So yeah, there will be more John Frusciante, more Jimi Hendrix, more Peter Green, and more Rory Gallagher, and hopefully some Paul Kossoff. Fingers crossed. Okay, so you also asked, question 4, part B, was what pedals and or/effects does John Frusciante use in the solo to the Red Hot Chili Peppers song "Hey" of Stadium Arcadium? It does sound, it's just, in all fairness, I reckon it's just his Ibanez Wah. I don't think it's anything else apart from, it sounds like his Silver Jubilee and his Plexi, his Major, sorry, the Major and the Plexi, and it just sounds like he's just using his Ibanez Wah. I don't, there's reverb, but I think that's coming from the desk. I don't think that would be in the room. It's quite a dry sound anyway. But I think personally it's just a Stratocaster into those amps, and he's just using his wah. It's very sparse. It just sounds like he's the Ibanez wah. I would very, very highly doubt he's using anything else. Let me think. Maybe delay, slight delay. But again, I would highly doubt that's coming from John. I would say that's something from the mixing desk again, in like, post-production. I think John's playing that solo totally clean with just the Ibanez Wah and a Stratocaster. And it sounds like it's on the neck pickup. It's not a bridge pickup tone he's got. It's a bit deeper, and the Ibanez Wah responds really nicely to the neck pickup, because not all wahs do. In all fairness, I think the Ibanez wah is the only wah pedal I've ever played that responds really well to neck pickups. The Vox Silvertop does it really, really well as well, but I think with the inbuilt boost in the Ibanez, it just adds a little bit more. But anyway, but yeah, I don't think John's using any other effects other than the Ibanez myself personally, and I say just his Strat into his Marshalls. I'd be very surprised if he's using anything else. It doesn't sound like anything. You know what I mean? It doesn't sound like there's anything there. There is compression on it as well. You can hear compression, but it could come from just the recording. Slight compression, tape compression maybe, because it was all recorded tape. And again, there is a bit of reverb, might be a bit of delay, but I don't know. I ain't actually listened to that song in ages, so I can't really say 100%. But yeah, it's very clean. It's just an Ibanez wah-wah sound, which you can simulate with something like the Vox Silvertop, but you'd have to use the bridge pickup, and you'd have to boost it with like an overdrive or a distortion pedal to get kind of like simulated overdrive that the Ibanez wah has. Yeah, but the Silvertop will do a very good job of that. The Vox Silvertop. Okay, so yes, I hope it's answered your question. Is there anything else I can think to add to that? I don't think there is. But yeah, invariably it just sounds like a cranked up Marshall amp with the Ibanez wah in there. Okay, so I hope I answered your question. Moving on to question 5 now. Question 5. I'm looking for a cheap bass to record with. Would you recommend 4 or 6 string? I would recommend 4. 5 string and 6 string basses are fun, but for just general recording, there's Jaco Pastorius only needed 4. So that's my response. Jimi Hendrix only ever needed 6 strings. Why do you need 7 or 8 or 9 or 12? Well, 12 in a certain respect. 12 strings are fun, but not 12 when they're just kind of stacked. Anyway, before I annoy everybody with my silliness on ridiculously stringed instruments, I would just go for a 4-string bass myself personally. I like I say, Jaco Pastorius did things on a 4-string bass that people aren't doing with a 6-string or a 5-string. You know what I mean? He changed the face of the bass with 4 strings. And I think that you can do a lot with a 4-string. If you need to downtune it to B, you can do. If you need to do all sorts of different things with it, you can do everything with a 4-string. You just alter the tuning. You know what I mean? I understand why people use a 5-string and a 6-string, but why not just get a 4-string and just downtune it and use heavier gauge strings? You know what I mean? I don't know. And not being a bass player, I don't want to go too deep into that one, but I don't really, like I said, I do understand the 5 and the 6-string bass thing, but 4 strings has been enough for decades of music. You know what I mean? And they say Jaco Pastorius only used 4, and if that's not, that's enough. Jaco Pastorius, watch what Jaco can do with a 4-string bass. Fretless jazz bass. It's like, whoa. Scary. Absolutely terrifying. Jaco was an absolute monster. I totally understand why the 5-string comes in there with that low B. I totally understand that. I do understand it, but invariably it only works for a certain thing. You know what I mean? You can use it for certain things, but it's cool to have. But invariably, a 4-string will cover most ground. You know what I mean? 5 strings are great, 6 strings are great, but invariably a 4-string is enough. You know what I mean? So yeah. Anyway, but you also asked. I've probably annoyed every bass player in the world by saying that, and probably 7-string guitarists as well by saying what I said about. Sorry. Although I do enjoy 7-string guitars. 7-string guitars are great fun. I can't play them for love nor money. I've tried an 8-string as well, and I definitely can't play an 8-string. But 7-string guitars are fun with that low B, but again, I get totally lost with it. And invariably, I'll just go back to a 6-string and just downtune the low E string to B, and just kind of go from there, really. But mainly because I'm an idiot, and I'm just not very good. Anyway, enough of that, Dave. Anyway, I would recommend going for a 4-string bass myself. You asked, excuse me, have you played the Squier Vintage Modified or Jaguar Basses? I have tried a Squier Vintage Modified. They're really nice. I haven't tried a Jaguar. Oh no, I've held a Jaguar bass, but I haven't tried one. It had no strings on it, and they're really nice. I've got really itchy nose. Oh, gravy. Jaguar basses feel really nice, but they're massive and they are very heavy. So bear that in mind. The Squier Vintage modified basses are really nice, but I have played one that wasn't. I don't know if it was due to its setup, but you can get really, you can do a lot with the setup. But a bass I would really, really, really recommend if you're on a budget, if you want a cheap bass, is the Harley Benton P bass, the original P bass, like it's a Telecaster bass basically. I had one, I relicked it, I did a demo of it. I eventually actually sold it to Duke's Luda bass player Jono because he loved it, and I wasn't getting on with it as well as I'd hoped. And I've got a Columbus jazz bass which I've been working with for ages, and that's my bass now. And I sold my Harley Benton Telecaster bass to Jono, and he absolutely adored it. He's played it every gig since I sold him it. He absolutely loves that bass, and it's so easy to play. And it really is one of those awesome cheap basses. It sounds great. It's bare bones. It's simple, single pickup, volume and tone. Really awesome neck, lovely feeling neck. It's just a great bass. So I'd highly recommend the Harley Benton Telecaster P bass. Awesome, absolutely awesome, and look great as well. So yeah, I mean that's what I'd recommend. The Squier Vintage modified are great as well. Jaguar basses are great as well, but Jaguar basses are super heavy, but they look cool. But I would, if you're after a cheap bass, I would really highly recommend that Harley Benton P bass, Telecaster bass. They record so well. We're in the process slowly of recording Duke's new album, and we've just been DIing. We haven't been using a bass amp with that Harley Benton, and it's been sounding really nice, like really round and warm sounding. Just DI, it sounds really cool. So yeah, I'd really recommend the Harley Benton, and they're really cheap as well, really cheap. So I'd really recommend that. So yeah, but again, down to you. Try everything you can. If you've got a local music shop, go and try every bass you can, because you never know. Okay, so you also asked as a final part to question 5, what does a bass sound like through a CR120 or the Boss Katana? I wouldn't know, because I wouldn't dare run a bass through them. You could probably blow them up. Blow speaker cabs up. You could probably get away with running a CR120 through a bass cab, but I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't recommend running a bass through a guitar amp. You can, but I wouldn't recommend it. People have in the past run basses through kind of JCM 800s and all sorts of different amps like Plexus, Super Leads. But invariably, it's not a very good idea. It's best idea is to kind of get a bass amp, or if you're recording, just go DI and kind of tweak and tweeze it with a graphic EQ more than anything. But yeah, I wouldn't run it for a CR120 or a Boss Katana. You're invariably going to blow the amp up with a bass. It's not really the best idea. On a low volume, you might be able to get away with it, but it's not going to do the amp any favours. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing that. But like I say, really recommend the Harley Benton Telecaster bass. Absolutely stunning. Out of the box, that bass was awesome. It really was. And I still mess around on it now. Even I do prefer my Columbus jazz bass that I've got to it, but it's the Harley Benton plays better, plays easier than the jazz. The Columbus jazz is a bit of a struggle, but it's the Harley Benton's absolutely stunning. It really is. I'd really recommend it. So yeah, is there anything else? No. Okay, so I hope that's your question. I'm going to move on to final question today, everybody. Question 6 now. Question 6. Were you able to get good tones out of the Boss Katana without using software like the Tone Studio? Yes, I have never ever used the Boss Tone Studio, as my laptop is too out of date and can't run it. My laptop's a 2009 and it doesn't have the ability to run the Tone Studio. So, yeah, I can't run the Tone Studio. So all I've ever done with the Katana is just plug straight in and just use the top dials. And yeah, you can get awesome tones out of the Katana. The EQ is so good. It's so good. The EQ on the Katana is immense. It really is immense. You can go from really dark and woolly to super bright, and everything in between. It's just awesome. So yeah, you don't need to use the software to get great tones out of the Katanas. They all sound, they sound good just plugging straight in and just tinkering around with them. So yeah, and I literally cannot rave about that amp enough. As a little sub question, I put a gig. I've replied to the comment, but I've been getting quite a bit. I've been getting quite a few comments recently from certain videos saying, why aren't I using the CR120 live or using the CR120 in general? The reason I'm not using the Orange CR120 live anymore is simply because of my back. And also the places I play, invariably, this is the space you have to set up in. Getting a 412 and the CR120 in that is impossible, you know. And also it's like, you know, I play pubs more often than not. I don't get to play stages. If I have 20 gigs in a year, which would be very, very good going. I had 20 gigs in a year in ages. But if I had 20 gigs in a year, invariably 5 of them would be on a stage and 15 of them would be on a pub floor. So you've got to think about real estate. It's one of the reasons I cut down on my pedal board, and the HX is a godsend for that, because the HX covers no foot space whatsoever. So I'm able to get away with having a bit more space, having a big pedal board. And also the same thing with using I used the CR120 for years, and the same thing with my my Marshall MGs. I used Marshall MGs for years with 4x12 cabs, but invariably it just gets easier, especially these days, to cart around small amps. You know, I mean, especially the Katana. Katana's a godsend as well. The Katana is so tiny and packs such a punch that I miss my 412s massively, but the Katana does the best job of filling that void. It's not a 412, but I'm happy with it. You know what I mean? But it's not the fact that the CR120 has fallen out of favour with me, because I still play through it. You know, I was playing through it the other day for hours, just straight into it, because I love the amp. I love the CR120. I love the Marshall MG. You know, I love all my amps, but the Katana is just more practical for where I play. If I was playing stages, like, you know, if I was playing like proper venues with a stage where I could get away with having, you know, quite a few amps, I would go overboard. I would use the CR120, the Marshall MG, and the Boss Katana all running together. I would use them all three, and I want all three mic'd up. That would be my dream setup. But I don't get to play places like that. I only get to play pubs. So as a result of that, I have to be careful and mindful of the space I'm going to have. Because invariably, a lot of the gigs we've been doing recently with the Dukes, and even some of the trio gigs we used to do, most of the stage area, the floor area, would be taken up with your amp. And then you wouldn't have any room to move. And plus you'd be right against your amp, so you wouldn't be able to hear it properly. With the Katana, that solved all those issues, because I can actually get it, you know, put it on a chair, angle it up, and I can hear everything I play, and it's got enough volume to be able to kind of get around all the issues. And so I haven't sold the CR120. I've still got the CR120, and will have the CR120 forever. I will never, ever get rid of that amp. It's one of my dream amplifiers, along with my Marshall MGs and the Boss Katanas. I will never sell those amps, you know what I mean? Like I said, and if I ever got to a point where I could get away with using multiple amps, because like I say, my dream setup is the Boss Katana 100, the MG 100, and the CR120 together, running together. It'd just be glorious, but I don't play places big enough to be able to do that. You know what I mean? I play pubs where, like I say, the space you have to set up is invariably the size of your guitar. You know what I mean? And even then, you got to be careful your headstock doesn't smack into the person stood next to you. So you got to be careful. And so carting 412s around has done my back in as well. So I've got a bad back from carting stuff like that around. I would still do it if I had a chance to set them up. I would still do it, but it's just more practical and easy to take the Katanas and use the Katanas and my Line 6 HX, you know, because it's just you know, the space I get isn't space, you know what I mean? And I say it's just easier, it's just more practical, and you've got to think about practicality of where you play. It's all for years and years and years I carted around 2 Marshall double stacks at a gig and had them running, and it was brilliant, and the sound was incredible, and you never, you know, the air that thing moved was unreal. I must have been so loud. I've got a picture somewhere on my Facebook, and you can see these two Marshall double stacks. And I used to run a Marshall Plexi, 50 watt small box, and the Marshall MG. And then over time, you eventually kind of like cut down on stuff. There's nothing that beats two Marshall double stacks. There really isn't. It's just like unreal. But when you're carting it around yourself and you're your own roadie, it does become a bit, tiresome, considering you've got to drag it around, set it all up, do a 2-hour gig, and then you got to pack it all down and get it back home again. It does become a bit of tiresome after a while. So with the Boss Katana, you just you just pick it up, put it on a chair, take it off, put it in the fan. It weighs nothing. It's small, compact, and it does its job perfectly. So, but yeah, like I say, the CR120 is still around, the Marshall MGs are still around, but the Boss Katana is my amp of choice for gigging, just because of its size, its punch, and its tones. It's not saying it sounds any better than the CR120 or the Marshall MG, because they all sound awesome. But it's just more practical for where I play, because I don't get to play bigger venues. If I got to play theatres on a regular basis, if the Dukes ever hit it big and we got to play theatres or places where we constantly had a stage, it'd be the CR120, the Marshall MG, and the Boss Katana all the time. It'd be one hell of an amp rig. It'd be so cool. But like I say, I don't get to play those kind of places because of where I am, sadly. So such is life, I'm afraid, at the end of the day. I might do it one day, just for the hell of it. Like, if I get a gig where I can actually set it up and get away with it, I might do it just for giggles, you know what I mean? Just because I can. But I do have a sneaking suspicion that's never going to happen. It doesn't... where I am on the live gigging food chain is super, super low. I get to play pubs, and that's where I live. I don't get to play venues with a stage, and if I do get to play venues with a stage, the stage normally isn't big enough to accommodate such a big amp setup, and also the venue isn't built to accommodate such a volume. So yeah, even though you could turn them all down really quiet, but either way, I might do that in the video one day. Just run the Katana, the CR120, and the Marshall MG all at once, and just see where we go with it, and just see what it sounds like, and actually film it. That'd be amazing. I'm gonna do that one day. People with Tube, I promise. But yeah, like I say, the CR120 is still around, but like I say, I had to cart around cabs, and invariably that's not, it's not practical for the places I play. We played a gig about a month ago, and literally the space I had to set up in was basically my guitar length. It was this length. It was like from here, that's the wall, and here, the edge of the headstock was my sister's head, who was playing cajon. So it's like, that was the space I had. So, the 50 watt Katana came out with my HX, and I still had enough room to move. If I was to cart a 412 to that gig, I wouldn't have any chance. I would have had to have changed. I would have had to have took it home and got a different amp. So anyway, so yeah, I thought I'd bring that up because I'm getting a few comments recently about where's the CR120 and why aren't you using it live and this, that, and the other. Why are you using the Katana more? It's just practicality more than anything else. It's not because the CR120 because I hate the CR120 or it sounds rubbish. It's simply because the Katana's just 10 times more practical and easier to move around than carting a 412 around with a head. It really is. So yeah, I thought I'd wanted to explain that at the end of the vid, and also it kind of goes with question 6. But I'd want to explain that in person because I have replied to the comment, but I wanted to explain in person, through the medium of voice, why I do that. Because again, it's just practicality. The big amps stay at home now. The small amps come out with me, because like I say, I haven't got the real estate to be using up with 412s. Sadly, I would love to, but it's not the way it works for me right now, sadly. Anyway, like I say, if I ever give a chance, that's what I will use. But anyway, I keep saying anyway. Stop saying anyway. You did it again. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I hope this Q&A has been informative. I have to think about my words there. I hope there's been I hope I've answered questions okay. As usual, we have the fear creeping up on me that I've totally ruined this Q&A, but I hope it's been informative, and yeah, I will see you again. Oh, Friday's video. I need to tell you about Friday's video. Friday's video is a pedal board build. I finally made myself a tiny pedal board as a backup board for my HX. And I filmed the whole process of me basically putting it together. Not building the board, I built the board off camera, but putting the pedal board together, make sure it works, and just like how I set the pedal board up. So that's going to be Friday's video. It was supposed to be Monday's video because I actually filmed it on Saturday because I was waiting, and I was like, I can't wait anymore. I'll film it. I filmed it over the weekend. Oh no, sorry, I filmed it last week on Friday, and I was like, I can't wait. I need to get it built. So I just thought I'll do it. Film it on Friday, put it up on Monday. But the gig vlog came up on Monday, so it's Friday's video. It's point in time. But at the end of the video, I'll see you on Wednesday for Q&A. So ignore that. It's just me. Not thinking ahead. But yeah, so that's Friday's video, everybody. It's a mini pedalboard build. It's the same footprint as my HX. So if my HX goes down at a gig, I have a pedalboard I can just quickly swap out with the minimum amount of effects I need to get through a gig. So the only qualm I have with it is I have to use a Crybaby wah, and I don't like it. I'm gonna have to buy myself another Vox when I can afford to. But yeah, so that's Friday's video, everybody. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope it's been informative, and I hope I've answered questions okay, and I will see you again on Friday for that video. Yes, have a great morning, afternoon, and good evening. Goodbye now. Thank you very much for watching.